Peace, everyone who's tuning in, whether this is you're tuning in live or you're tuning in. I should have done this before I started. Tripod wasn't all the way perfectly secured, but we're good now. I hope you are well with this new moon eclipse situation, and you're doing lovely, and you're amazing, which you are, because you're filled with cosmic energy. I don't know if anybody's ever told you, ever heard that before, but it's true. You just gotta connect with it. Anywho, so it is a new moon in Sagittarius, so I wanted to do a little video about Sagittarius, which I had to brush up on what the fuck Sagittarius archetypes are. So we're going to talk about Sagittarius, we're going to talk about new moons, we're going to talk about charged battery, 15%, well, we'll be fine. We'll talk about, the archetypal energy of Sagittarius. We'll talk about what are you aiming your arrow at, right? For this new moon, what are you aiming at? Because it's the archer. It's also the centaur. So what are you aiming at in terms of your intentions, goals, plans, dreams, in the immediate future and the distant future? So let's talk about Sagittarius. So centaur and archer, right? So a centaur, is that half man, half bull? I meant to look it up before I started filming, recording, but it's all good. Let's assume it is half man, half bull. Just think about that energy of a man and a bull, right? Because a Taurus, right, that's a bull, and think of the Taurus energy signature, if you will, and how that can manifest. And so just think about, this isn't full bull, but it's bull, man, archer? Or is it horse? I think centaur is a horse and a man, right? So horseman, archer. And just think about those symbols and reflect upon those symbols. And what does it make you think of? What is someone or something or an entity that has those characteristics? How would you describe it, right? And there's no wrong answer to this. There's only right answers, because what do you come up with? There's a general interpretation, which I'm going to get into. But ultimately, it's your relation to it. You know what I'm saying? There's people who have amazing relationships in love, like crabs and shrimp. Nope. I have a different relationship with that. And both are valid relationships in relation to crabs and shrimp and all those sea creatures that aren't fish, right? And so I'm not wrong for having my relationship with those things, and someone else is not wrong for having their relationship, even if it's not opposing. So that's the thing. We trick ourselves in think it's opposing, but it's just another relationship. You know what I'm saying? That'd be akin to if you're in a relationship with somebody and then any other relationship, point blank period, that you see, you're like, oh, fuck that relationship. It's not my relationship. This is, you know what I'm saying? It's like that same sort of thing. So, your relationship to symbols and archetypes can be similar, where someone, I love cacti and cactus is like, if you put a cactus on anything, I will probably buy it, like real talk. And just something I just love cacti, but someone else with the symbol that is cacti, they could have fallen on a cacti, they could have a traumatic connection and relationship and perception and awareness and a reality field about cacti that is starkly different than mine. And that can be for anything. And that's what we have to realize. And that's probably one of the most difficult things about dealing with people interpersonally. Because you could get along with something, but then there'd be that one thing. You're like, what? Did you ever watch Star Wars? Like, are they a human? What the fuck is wrong with them? But, it's whatever. It's how the energies work. And it's all energies. And some energies you're like, oh, yeah, totally. And some you're not. And people energies you could be with, but you could lose them. You could lose them over some just random thing. So, but anyways, let's keep talking about Sagittarius now, shall we? So, centaur, human, horse, man, archer. A lot going on there. But he's shooting arrows, and I think that's important. And okay, let's think about it. Horse is much more graceful and athletic than a human. Like a horse can run faster than a human. Okay? So, you know what I'm saying? So having a lower body of a horse, that's like, yo, we're out here. And we're an archer too? Like that, like if that dude was assassin, like an assassin, like he can run like a horse, but he's got like human dexterity and like, you know, intellect and can, you know, do that shit that a horse's brain can't do. And he's got a bow and he's coming for you. Good luck. Good luck. So that is the energy that is going on with this thing. And now that was one interpretation that I read, and we're going to get into a more general interpretation. But yeah, it could be any way. Like if you perceive it, you can believe it. If you're like, yo, that reminds me of XYZ. And it's an association with Sagittarius that no one's saying on a blog, no one's saying in videos, but it's just you come to a conclusion or insight that it's like, yo, to me, Sagittarius energy, archetypal energy is this, right? And you just believe that shit. That's what you have to do with symbols, you know what I'm saying? You have to use symbols and your belief in certain symbols, whether it's astrological symbols or any sort of symbol in your life. You have to, you know, the ones that really speak to you, that you feel strongly about emotionally and psychologically, you need to just be like, oh, okay, this is it. And you make it work. If the symbol of making coffee, like, reminds you of, like, your parents, and it's such a happy memory, like, 'cause they always used to drink coffee or whatever, rock that till the wheels fall off, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, when symbols become negative and we have traumatic relationships with symbols, that's where it's even more of a problem. In addition to not having positive relationship with certain symbols in terms of belief and making that belief manifest in reality, then you have the other way where it's like you believe too negatively a certain symbol that has occurred in your life, and now it, like, you know, any mention of that symbol or any showing of that symbol will fuck you up. So any association with a symbol and an archetypal energy like Sagittarius in this case for this new moon video, you know, always look at your own personal relationship with the thing. Not what people say. You can always use that as like, that's some way of viewing it also. But always, like, you know, make up your own conclusion on, you know, just don't take someone's like, oh, this is Sagittarius. Like, oh, okay. Don't take my word for this shit. Like, what do you feel? If I spark some insights, you know, then I've done my job. But it's like, well, I'm going to read. It's not necessarily like, this is it. This is what Sagittarius is forever and ever and ever. No, things are moving. Things are always changing. And you always have to understand that people as a, you know, there could be a general consensus about certain things and the symbol of certain archetypes, right? Definitely. Collective unconscious all day. Again, at the same time, you always got to develop your own relationship with anything, any information you come in contact with, any symbol. And they're saying, yeah, why do you like it? Like, not why Billy likes it, not why John likes it. Why do you like that? Or why do you want to do that? And understand your relationship with things, specifically things you do repeatedly. Like, if you don't understand your relationship with, like, if you're a painter and you don't understand your relationship to painting, then it's like, that's akin to if you were dating someone and, like, you just didn't know, like, anything about them. You know, so, like, we had to be a scientist ourselves in our relationship to symbols, whether it's Sagittarius or anything else. But let me continue. I got on a rant. So, centaur, you know, half horse, half man, archer, right? So that's just the visual from the start. But yeah, let me start reading. Okay, so Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is very interesting. Ruled by Jupiter and fire sign. So fire expansion. This shit, we just always need to break it down to the simplest parts, right? Like, all this shit can get a little too, like, what's the word? Haughty? Like, magic and occult shit can get a little too haughty. Like, from the standpoint of, it starts becoming an intellectual exercise of the ego. Like, very quickly, right? So, like, you know, it's like, it turns into like, hey, we want to know some things out there, to be like, yeah, and then we had to put on these robes and do like this and say this and this and this and this. And yes, there's traditions where that has worked and you can learn those traditions, but at the end of the day, you need to always come back to your just understanding of, the basic parts, like the basic parts of magic and belief, of imagination, visualization, you know what I'm saying, clairvoyance, clairsentience, all the clairs, all 8,000 clairs. And then, as it gets more quote unquote complex, I guess you could say, in your experimentation in the occult spiritual realms, you have a good foundation. It's like, if you don't know the basics, like, I guess if you're a good shooter in basketball, you could just be a good shooter. And there's like lots of those these days who just drain shots. They don't need to dribble. Maybe they need to dribble a little to set up the shot, but damn, my mouth got very dry all of a sudden. Anyways, you always need to just break it down to the simplest parts. So fire and Jupiter. So Jupiter, expansion, right? Expanding fire, or fire that is expanding. Okay, so we have a centaur, man, archer, who is also fire expanding. I don't know about you, that's it's pretty, I'll find you there. Damn, I need some water. Hold on one second. We need to get some water. Wow, like cottonmouth, like all day. Hold on. Anyways. Oh. Yeah. That was funny. I was like, no, I can make it through. I need to hydrate my mouth. Okay. I always forget talking a lot. Just makes your mouth dry. Alright, so fire expanding fire, centaur, half man, half horse, archer. Okay, so ruled by Jupiter and symbolized by the centaur and the archer. See? Sagittarius is the third and final fire sign in the zodiac and represents freedom, exploration, and expansion. So, let's just talk about that for a second. Freedom, exploration, and expansion. And it's the final fire sign. So it's like, this is it. Fire sign, we doing it. We out here, we expanding, we're freedom, we're exploration. Right? So just those sorts of ways, in addition to like the fire element, it's heavily aligned with magic and occult. You know what I'm saying? Because fire, the wand, the magician, that sort of thing. So, another little tip for anything with this is, no matter what it says, turn it internal first. Like, always, no matter what an archetype is, always look at it like, what is that in me? Right? Never be like, oh, out there, Sagittarius out there. No, Sagittarius is in you. It's in everybody. Right? If we are connected to everything, then why wouldn't Sagittarius be inside of us? And that's why this holographic universe book is fucking mind-blowing, because everything contains everything. Like, and explained through the model of a hologram, it makes total sense. And I didn't know anything about holograms, and then I read it, I was like, oh, that's how a hologram works? And I was like, oh, shit, that's how everything else is too? It's very fascinating. So, everything contains everything. So, when you look at any archetype, any symbol, always look at it as that's in you, and that can be activated, that can be aligned with, but don't think anything extremely dark and negative to anything amazing. Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and all them niggas, right? That they exist inside you. They are you. They are connected to you. Now, whether you activate that energy within you, and also outside of you, you can activate it outside of you, but most importantly, at least in my humble opinion, as a magician or occultist, is to activated inside yourself. So then it, like, you know, then anything outside of yourself, that takes care of itself, right? It's like you don't need to beg in a sort of way. Yeah, you don't need to beg and ask for things. You just attract things. It's different. Think about a life where you're just working on attracting things versus working on getting things. And that's what you want to do. You know, that is the difference between, and I think that's, you know, that's the difference between living a life where you're heavily aligned with the masculine, the left brain, right, versus be aligned with the goddess mind, which is also the right brain, right, the creative side. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're aligned with that, you're in receptive mode. You're receiving, right? You're receiving insights. You're receiving, you know, helpful suggestions and all sorts of wonderful things from your highest form, highest self, spirit guides, elders, whatever you want to fucking say. Again, all that shit is in you and will be in you, in your DNA. You know what I'm saying? You feel like, don't want to be like, oh, that's in me. You know, like, oh. If you don't go that far, like your ancestors are definitely in your DNA and elders are in your DNA. It's just, it's a hilarious joke. That's the funny thing I've realized about this, like, occult shit. That's why I think people, even if they're not occultists, who's just some way come to that conclusion, realize it's like, oh, this shit is, oh, I'm just doing whatever I want. This shit is hilarious. Because it's like, it's all about the inner state. That's literally the whole point. I mean, not the whole point, but I would say a significant point. It's just like, oh, out there, out there, out there. Oh, out there, out there. Yo, out there. Like, just, like, constantly there's always something screaming for your attention outside of your own mind and your own heart. And it's really funny. It actually is very funny. And sometimes it's like shocking things. Sometimes it's hilarious things. Sometimes it's just like boring things. You know, it could be any sort of thing, but it's always an opportunity where you can tune yourself out very easily. You know, if you're like, you know, if you're aware of what's happening, if you're aware of when things pop up and how they can grab you, like, no matter what it is. Like, I was talking to my friend Anne about getting caught, like, going somewhere and then, like, someone's watching a movie, you get caught up in the movie, even though it's like, that's not why you went there. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and, like, you know, you had, like, some work to do and you don't do it or something. And I was just talking about, like, the getting caught up in movies, but, like, if it's later in a movie, for me, it's like, oh, whatever, fuck this movie. It's like, because it's like, I want to know all the shit, like, who this dude is, like, what's his backstory. Like, I want to know all the shit. I can't just come and just watch, like, an ending and be like, oh, that's a good movie. Like, no. I'm just like, I still have too many questions. What happened earlier? How we got here? You know what I'm saying? Who that dude was who kept winking, and then later he saved the day. And you're like, what? I thought that dude was, like, not on their side. And he was like, oh, remember earlier? Remember earlier when, you know, you were kidnapped and, like, I untied the thing. You know, some shit like that. So, where was I? Yeah, where was I? I was on quite a rant there. But anyways, let's just bring it back to Sagittarius. That's what we're here for. So let's just give the people what they want, all right? So, we're talking about freedom, exploration, expansion. So just in terms of an occult perspective, that just sounds like very occult, right? Because freedom, you're probably free. That's, you know, you can say you're freeing yourself from your ego. Like, that's like the ego's control. Like, ego, guys, we need to look at our ego like just a nice little pet. Like, but just like you wouldn't let your dog run your life, don't let your pet ego run your life. But it can do some cool tricks. Like, that's the thing. The ego can do some cool tricks that on planet Earth are just wonderful, right? But we can't just get caught up in the cool tricks, right? We need to have our higher minds being the owner of the ego, being like, okay, ego, it's time for you to go lay down. You know what I'm saying? Higher mind is on this shit. You know what I'm saying? And not getting caught up in the tricks of our ego. So, when we think about freedom, exploration, expansion, yeah, we want to free ourselves from the, the left brain, human, overly masculine, not even divine masculine sort of like, let's do this shit, you know what I'm saying? We want to free ourselves, like, and be more receptive, be in the goddess mode, the right brain. And we're all the shit, we're just attracting shit. Like, we don't even know how the shit happens sometimes. Just like, yeah, we're attracting abundance, and, people just handing out checks, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just, at this point, it's just inexplicable. But it's like we become abundance, and we are freeing ourselves from, like, the control of our ego and the tricks it can do in the world. And, then it, like, frees up, where it's like the highway opens up, and then shit just starts flowing to us. Like, like the job I just got, like, 1000% I got it because I was heavily working on magnetizing my mind at the point when I was doing it, and I just started doing, like, yo, I have the job, I am the job, you know what I'm saying, and like a few days later I got the job, you know what I'm saying. I had 2 jobs, actually, true story. I had to turn one down, and I turned it down after I told them I was going to do it verbally. Then I thought about it, I was like, nah, this other job's better, and that's what happened. So, but yeah, I 100% contributed to me magnetizing my mind that I had the job, and I was like, yo, subconscious mind, make it happen. Here are the instructions, right? And that's what it is. It's program your subconscious mind and give you new instructions. So the freedom from the ego, right? The pet, and then exploration, right? And expansion. Let's just talk about that for a second. So you got the centaur, which is half man, half horse. He's an archer. He's also fire, expanding fire, right? Because it's the fire sign. It's the last fire sign in the zodiac, the third and final one. So also you get 3 in there, right? So think about that symbolism too, in terms of, so many different 3s. The Trinity, mind, body, soul, that sort of thing. So you have this archetype, and now we talk about exploration and expansion. What are we exploring? What are we expanding? I mean, I'll give you a few things that I would say it's worth anybody exploring. Your own mind, your own heart, your chakras, your traumas and triggers and disappointments. And, you don't have to go over these with a fine-tooth comb. Like, there's an exercise that I got to finish doing, actually. This reminds me, where it's like, you write down, like, first, like, all your, like, demonic qualities, right? Where, you write them down in terms of, just, like, shit about yourself. Like, oh, I'm a little slovenly sometimes, right? You write all these things down, right? In all these different categories. Then you do it for, like, your angelic parts, right? You do, like, oh, I'm kind, I'm generous, like, you do that sort of thing. You make these 2 lists. And then, based on what they are, the different types of behaviors, there's, like, a rubric where there are different, of the 4 elements, right? Like, certain, like, demonic behavior is, like, that's a fire energy, at least according to this book. But I thought it was a great exercise, right? So then you organize them, in terms of, like, okay, here's what my spread is. Like, oh, most of my quote-unquote demonic behavior is fire and water, which I think mine was. No, I think it was, like, water and air or some shit like that. And so then you do it for your other side, your angelic side. And the idea is, when you're doing your magical workings, right, you see what elements can impede, your work you're doing. If you're working with certain elements and, like, the magical work you're doing, and it's like, oh, like, my heavy, watery, whatever part of me might impede it, but also, like, this side of me in the angelic sense, my positive qualities based on their elemental correspondence, they can help me in these areas, right? So, the exploration and expansion of our mind and consciousness is very important, especially if it's like the third and final sign of the zodiac, right? Before it starts over, right? So before it starts over, like, you would talk about that as, like, reincarnation. You would talk about that as rebirth, right? It starts on Aquarius again. Hold on. Okay. Where was I? So yeah, the exploration and expansion is, important to understand from the standpoint of where are we going, right? And, ideally, you're going inside. You're going in your own heart and mind and seeing what's going on in there, seeing what's shaking. And you're exploring that and you're understanding what is going on in your own heart and mind. And then when you connect to the Sagittarius energy, in this case, for a new moon, and you're writing things about what is going on, then you could figure out what is going on in your own life. Then you can figure out what's going on in your own reality, because you've understand what's going on in your own hearts, maybe your disappointments, maybe things that you regret, right? You can kind of look at them from a higher perspective and be able to see them in a certain way that you hadn't seen them before. So then if you are doing a new moon ritual ceremony, like in the ceremony and ritual, because that could be anything. That could literally be just lighting a candle, saying a few things, and then putting out the candle, right? Any sort of thing about like a ritual and any sort of ceremony with doing any sort of spiritual or occult work can be as simple as you want to make it. And that is another big secret that I'm letting out of the bag so everybody knows is that it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be as complex as you want it to be, but it also can be very simple as you want it to be. And probably the simpler the better, because the more complex, the more it gets into the left brain, the more it gets into the logical mind, the more it gets into the ego, right? If there's a whole bunch of tricks and this and that, and it could be just an extension of the ego. That's why when you are doing magical work, ego, listen, there's nothing wrong with it, but just you gotta be, if you want to really succeed, you gotta be in the receptive mode in terms of the goddess brain, the right brain, in terms of what you're doing. So you have Sagittarius, right? It's a new moon in Sagittarius. So full moon is like, yo, this is the end, right? This is the last 2 minutes of the game, right? It's like, oh, what'd you do at the beginning of the game? I'm sure maybe you could scramble and maybe come from behind, but the game's nearing the end, right? But new moon, right? It's a new moon, right? New energy, right? And this energy is Sagittarius, which again is the third and final fire sign in the zodiac before it starts over with, well, it doesn't start over quite yet. There's Capricorn, and then you have Aquarius. So, but it's third and final because what's Capricorn? Earth sign? Yeah, sure. So anyways, you have this fiery freedom, exploration, expansion. What are you doing and what are you aiming at? And how are you expanding? Because what you're shooting at, well, this is one way of looking at it, what you're shooting at is responsible for where you're expanding. I mean, it's pretty simple and that's one way of looking at it. Where you're shooting at is where you're expanding to. Because even just thinking about it like this, I was thinking about this the other day. When you make a choice, that is where you are turning your awareness to. Whatever that choice is, right? Whether that choice is to eat a slice of pizza, whether that choice is to cross the street a certain way at a certain time, right? You're turning your reality in a certain direction. So, because, you can't, your consciousness, in our normal consciousness, most of us, it's like it can't be split, right? And at least in how we perceive it, let me just say that. Where it's like, if I'm focused my attention here, there's some area I cannot be focusing my attention, right? Or my attention is not on that thing, right? That's why it's like the tree falling in the forest. Was there a sound? Like, well, if nobody's there to hear it, there's no sound, right? Like that reality doesn't exist because it's like no one was there to verify it and witness it. But it sounds silly, but also it's like, no, that didn't, no one was there. If no one was there, then it didn't exist. And when someone went there, that's when it existed. And that's the most holographic, trippy way of putting it, but listen, read Holographic Universe. You'll question everything. And I was already on that question everything joint, especially with quantum physics. And yeah, he brings ties all those points together. It'll just blow your mind. I just got the physical copy today. I'm very excited to finish reading. Because I was reading the ebook. Man, there's just so many things to highlight, underline. I'm going to have to just read that book again just to underline. Like, that's how you know. That's how you know it's a slapper. Where I bought it, I was like, yo, I can't go without underlining it any longer. So I bought it. It was only $5. And then I'm like, yo, I just need to hand this book out to people. Seriously. Like, for Christmas or for December gift giving season. Let's just call it that now. December gift giving season. I'm going to just hand people Holographic Universe. I'm just going to hand it out to them. It's time. So, as we explore and expand, back to Sagittarius, as we explore and expand, we realize that where we're shooting at, right? Where we're shooting at, especially, think about a horse running with a bow and arrow. That's why it's funny to think of, just break down this archetype. Think about a horse man running with a bow and arrow. Like, that is so sick, and I need to see that in a film of some sort. I'm sure it's out there as you dig it up, or you look on YouTube. Like centaur assassins. Damn. That shit would be wild. So, just think about that in terms of intentions that you could be aiming at, goals you could be aiming at. That's a lot of potential energy you got on your side, if you're aligning with the Sagittarius energy, right? The centaur archer, full of fire, made of fire. That's a lot of energy, and that's why we want to tap in. That's why I felt the call to do a Sagittarius, new moon thing, because, it's powerful stuff, everybody. So, let me just read that again. Ruled by Jupiter and symbolized by the centaur and the archer, Sagittarius is the third and final fire sign of the zodiac and represents freedom, exploration, and expansion. Armed with unbridled faith and optimism, Sagittarius is here to remind us of the inextricable connection between our sense of adventure and the expansion of consciousness. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so the connection between our sense of adventure and the expansion of consciousness. Well, I'm going to have to write this up. Well, anywho. Yeah. We're going to wrap this up. Okay, so a sense of adventure and expansion of consciousness. This is where we aim high and choose our loftiest ideals with enthusiasm. Because again, we got a centaur archer that's full of or made of fire, right? That's like, yo, I'm the last fire sign. Ew, like just going in, right? So we got that. So, and also, this Negro is adventurous. He loves adventure. He's like, yo, what are we doing? Oh, we gotta like shoot arrows over there. Oh, we gotta bounce them off that tree. Oh, let's get it. Oh, we gotta assassinate a gnome. We gotta do some gnome assassinations. Oh, okay, bet. It's like that dude, old Saggy, is like, yo, we're out here. We're getting it. All right, and also like the expansion of consciousness. Like, oh, word, we're doing ayahuasca. Yo, let's get it. It's like, yo, Leo, we're doing ayahuasca. Oh, okay, Sag. Yo, no doubt. It's like, yo, you want to come, Pisces? Like, nah, man, I gotta do this. That'd be a hilarious animated show about just all the different signs and try and nail them as like caricatures of the signs. That'd be funny. No one steal that idea. Well, if you do, I don't care. I'm not gonna do anything with it. I'm just gonna be honest. So, Sagittarius begins the final third of the zodiac, the stage of evolutionary development, dealing with integrating the individual itself into collective whole, or rather, the transpersonal self. Oh shit! I've actually read this, and like I printed this off, and then I'm just reading it now. Yo, these my kind of people writing it like this, because that transpersonal psychology, y'all. Well, that's it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot here. I have to do part 2 tomorrow. God damn. Embodying the archetypes of the gypsy, the student, and the philosopher, Sagittarius is the ultimate voyager, driven to explore the far reaches of the higher mind in pursuit of ultimate universal truth. Wow. I really like how this is written. Yeah, and the exploration, the voyage, right? Where is the higher mind? Oh, it's in your mind. It's in your heart, right? That's where it is. So the voyage, the ultimate voyage, what is the ultimate voyage? The ultimate voyage is within. That is the ultimate voyage. That is the ultimate quest. That is the ultimate adventure. That is what all mythological tales are ultimately about in some way, shape, or form, whether we realize it or not. And yeah, sometimes the adventure can be like, yo, I gotta go here and drive here and, you know, go through a toll booth and shit like that. But it's always the journey within. And so Sagittarius embodies the journey within, right? If it's the ultimate voyager, it's the one, really, if you're doing a journey within, this is like your fucking patron saint or whatever the fuck. Like, this is the dude you want to fucking align with. If it's like you're about that journey within work, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going on like a road trip, it sounds like you're a dude too. But, you know, do the road trip in your heart. I mean, while you're on the road trip externally, you could say, even like doing a road trip is something that's going on within your own heart, and that's how you want to externalize what's going on within your own heart in that road trip. So Sagittarius, the ultimate voyager. So that's fascinating. This is very, I fuck with Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, the search for the meaning of life fuels everything, and with a tireless spirit of adventure and an inherent need to understand differing worldviews, some forms of exploration of the world is inevitable. How this plays out can take many forms. For some, it may mean traveling around the far reaches of the globe or even expatriating, while for others, it may simply mean being consistently drawn to foreigners at home. But it's all about having as much cross-cultural experience as possible in order to grasp the principles of universal law. Of course, this kind of exploration requires all the personal freedom one can have, which is why too much routine or too much of someone else's agenda is the death to this sign. There is an innocence at play here, and that keeps the Sagittarius youthful, forever a student of life. However, this openness, optimism, and insistence on personal freedom can also translate into a profound naivete and crushing disappointment, if not tempered with some realism and common sense. The Sagittarian mind is so open and adaptable that, given the right focus, a steady expansion of consciousness can become an effortless state of being. Now, I know I said a lot right there, and normally I would break this down more, but I wanted to get all that out. Is that one more page? No, okay, there's a little bit left. Just in case the shit shuts off, because I only have 5% left, so that'll be a whole thing to plug it in right now. So, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go back and break that down. So we talked about the ultimate voyager. And then... So the traveling, it talks about traveling, and yeah, maybe, listen, I am through and through a traveler. Like, the sooner I can have my van life vehicle, the better, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's a van or a forerunner, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to fucking drive around in a vehicle, right? And play what's in my heart about that out in the real world, right? Because that's essentially what it is. It's like, oh, I wrote this idea for a play in my heart. Or I received this idea for a play in my own heart, doing a van life thing where I'm driving around. And now I want to, I want to perform it. I want to act it out. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking, the van could be played by a 1998 Econoline, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that sort of thing. Like, that's really, I have to look at this shit. It's just a big play. It's a big musical. I mean, you can just do whatever you want, you know what I'm saying? You can do Book of Mormon. You can do what's a fucking stupid movie they're all stupid when they turn some of these movies. I'm just saying, they turn some of these musicals, or some of these movies into musicals like that, just, like, really? what would be a fucking good one? What would be a fucking just strange movie? Aliens. Yo, if there was ever an Aliens musical, I would fucking fall on the floor. First of all, I would have to see that shit. Yo, now I want to fucking create an Aliens musical. Like, that shit would be just, yo, who's that dude who did that? Fucking, I don't know. What's that guy's name? He's like a famous dude who does things. Ridley? Yeah, was that Ridley? Ridley Scott? I believe it was. Okay, anyways. I'm sorry about like the battery running out. Here I am talking about Ridley Scott. Okay, so traveling, right? And the traveling can be, you know what I'm saying, can take on many forms. You know what I'm saying? I always look at traveling like anywhere you haven't been, you're trying to. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it's a restaurant, you've never been to that restaurant, like, you traveled to a new place. Like, you know, you can't discount that. So, you know, you may want to travel physically, expatriate, go live in Bulgaria for a while. I've been thinking about and talking about Bulgaria randomly a lot. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's just hilarious because I don't even really know where I vaguely know where Bulgaria is, but I don't know anything about Bulgaria. I don't think Bulgaria knows anything about me, but I feel like Bulgarian women are hot. I'm just gonna go on a limb on that. I'm just going on a limb on that one, and you know, really, yeah, that's what it is. So I'm going to Bulgaria, folks. I'm sure it's like they have good. What's Bulgaria have good? I thought cheese, like Bulgarian cheese. I feel like Bulgarian cheese is like, whew. It's like, yo, we got this shit imported from a little farm in Bulgaria. Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyways, let's get back to Sagittarius archetypes. Okay, so there's the traveling, blah, 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 cross-cultural experience. Of course, this kind of exploration requires all the personal freedom one can have. And this is why too much routine or too much someone else's agenda is a death to the sign. Monotony, routine. You know, and it's funny because, you know, I think about that now where, you know, there's a certain part of me that loves, like, routine, but it has to be my routine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can definitely, you know, it definitely helps me thrive with a different routine. Like, when I worked at this camp this summer, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a certain routine I had to do that I was like, you know, it was good for me. You know, and like, I enjoyed it. Like, you know, I look back and like, like that only helped my consciousness go, like, subscribing to that routine, right? And everything that meant. And so, you know, when it comes to, you know, too much routine, right? Where the Voyager is just like, yo, Voyager, Sagittarius energy wants to like, yo, we want to go. We're going to travel. We want to see new shit. But no, we're doing the same thing, same drive, same people, same whatevers, all the same. And, you know, same is comfortable. That's the thing. When you don't go on the quest, when you don't go on the journey, when you don't go on the path within or without, either one or both, when you don't do it, right, they usually call it in the hero's journey, refusing the call, the refusal to call. Like, think about any movie where it's like the main character, someone comes to them and they're like, what? That's crazy. Get out of here, old man. Like, that's stupid. Like, there's no magic beans. Or whatever the fuck. I don't know why I reference that. But they're like, whatever. Like, I'm not going with you on that stupid thing, right? Like, think about, like, when Gandalf came to see Frodo. He's like, what? Fuck, ring? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, get out of here. I don't know if he said get out of here or if he was like, oh, sure, Gandalf. I don't remember. But yeah, usually there's a refusal of the call, they call it, where it's like, yo, like, no, I'm good. I'm comfortable here. You know what I'm saying? I got my goats, you know, it's like, we're just chilling here. Like, I'm not trying to go on a quest, man. Drop off a ring in a volcano. Like, I don't know about that, man. You're not even going to give us those, like, birds? right? That's a controversy in the Lord of the Rings universe. Like, why couldn't they have just... But it's like, you dummies, and there would have been a whole book, a whole movie if Gandalf let them use those things. You're silly. And who knows, that could have been like, they could have just found them easier. For all we know. Like, geez. Big controversy in Lord of the Rings. L-O-T-R-T. They didn't like that Gandalf. Like, that's why that shit from that show, Whitest Kids You Know, is hilarious, where they talk about that scene about, like, how they got revenge on Gandalf. Like, what? You had, like, my friends died. Like, you had these the whole time? And he's like, well, they just beat him up. It gets much worse, but you'll have to look it up yourself. Anyways, so, the Sagittarian energy is the traveler explorer. So when that energy gets stifled, it's very important, right? No one likes to feel stifled and stagnant and stuck in a rut, stuck in a routine that they don't enjoy, that doesn't fulfill them. And that's a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes the fear of voyaging, right, to going out there on the adventure is terrifying to people. Like, it really is. You know, it really is. And, you know, or just anxiety producing. Maybe it's not terrifying, just anxiety producing. It's just easier to not, like, well, you know, people are going all these quests. You know, I'm good. You know, it's not the best. You know, I'm not, you know, I think it'd be better, but it's like, I'm going on a quest, right? And people don't want to do that. You know, they'd rather stay comfortable. You know, this is probably more of a subconscious process than is a conscious one. But there's lots of times when, yeah, people are directly confronted with a quest that will challenge them some way, and they turn it down, and sometimes they, you know, never, you know, get out of the comfort zone with that challenge, whether it's like, you know, a challenge at work, or, you know, it's ultimately a challenge of your own mind. You know, in the unknown, going into the darkness, you know, going into the unknown world they call in the hero's journey, which is the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is everything you can see. The lights. Oh, my dog's over here. Oh, my biscuits are over here. Oh, my phone's there, right? Like, you know, but you go down there, it's like, yo, you can't even bring your phone. You're like, yo, your dog's gotta stay home. Biscuits. If you have a biscuit, they'll shoot you. And it's like, yo, oh shit, like, I can't have biscuits here? You know what I'm saying? That is the unknown. That is your subconscious mind. That is what we all need to always explore. That's what we all need to always research and understand. So, lining up with the Sagittarius energy is important in this way, because then we can further enhance our exploration of self. And, you know, additionally, help us with our external explanation, which is just embodying our internal exploration. So, let's see. So yeah, too much routine. Innocence, right? Youthful, forever student. That's important too. You know what I'm saying? It's not stuck in the energy of like, well, I know all the shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm Sagittarius, bitch. Right? And, you know, doesn't mean there's not a place for that confidence. But this is like, yo, all right, everything's hilarious. It's just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, let's learn more. You know, it's like, oh, there's definitely always I can learn more. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know, but I can always learn more. Right? And that's the contradiction that's funny. And especially if you further your like occult wisdom and spiritual wisdom and that sort of thing, where it's like I love anytime, like, I'll be saying someone in, like, my own perspective or something, and someone will hit me back with, like, a comment on that, or just, like, a response to what I say, and it just flips my whole view of the thing I thought was an insight, and it's, like, a bigger insight off of what they said to me, and I'm like, oh, shit, you know what I'm saying? But I'm never like, no, I like my version of it better. I'm always like, oh, shit, like, you know, and then that leads to something else, and then it keeps expanding from there. So, always being playful, right? Just think of a playful, energetic, made of fire, centaur, archer that also is like the best explorer and voyager. Yo, that's a pretty cool archetype. I gotta say, that is a pretty cool one. And like some of these archetypes, I need to really revisit the astrological signs because one, I only know like the few that I in my life have come in contact with. You know what I'm saying? I've researched those specific signs. Maybe it's like four to six, maybe 5 or 6 specific signs. I'm like, oh yeah, I get that archetype of that energy. Like I know what they're about. Not that person, because people can be more complex than their zodiac sign, but just in terms of the archetypal energy, if that person was an archetypal copy, like 100% of that energy and was not influenced with other energies, which is impossible, yeah, they would be like this. You know what I'm saying? But Sagittarius is not one that I've like studied like other ones. So yeah, so a lot of this is very new information to me, or a refresher at the very least. So yeah, so it's a youthful energy. It's a youthful fire energy, right? So, however, this openness, optimism, and insistence on personal freedom can translate into profound naivete and crushing disappointment. Yeah, it's like, like think of a playful child. If a playful child, like, is expecting a parent to do something, right? And it's just like, and then it doesn't happen, but they were just so excited for that thing that they thought was like locked up. Like, yo, we're definitely having my birthday party at like Speaker City. I was trying to think of that the other day because I was like, what was it wasn't Circuit City because that's the name of the real place, but in the movie Old School, what was like the place he worked at? Speaker City. So the naivete is like, yeah, that youthful exuberance, all right, where it gets, because we're still in a human reality, so how it can play out, shit can always like go sideways, even with our highest alignment. There can just be some sideways shit sometimes. That's like, oh, flat tire, unbelievable. So being naive of what can happen is, also important, in life in general, anything can happen at any moment. That's why if like I look up that there's an Aliens musical, I'm gonna like, yo, I'm done. Like, I'm done in terms of like I need to get into making musicals out of some of these movies. Just look up just the worst like 80s movie or just like the worst movie and just adapt it to a musical. Because then, here's what it does. Because then it's like, if it was a terrible movie, then it's like, it'll be a hilarious musical. I think that's the key. I mean, good movies can make a good musical, but I think a terrible movie makes an even better musical. I'm onto something. You watch out, folks. I'm gonna be churning out these movie to musical adaptations, and it's gonna be over. Like, oh, does Chris do Occult Lives anymore? No. He's making a... Is there a Babe musical? I only say Babe because my mom was talking about watching Babe the other day. She was like, oh, this is random. I'm watching Babe. I was like, oh, cool. That'd be a hilarious musical. And I need checks. I'll adapt that. I'll choreograph the Babe musical. That can't be that hard. Just do all the pig movements. People will love it. People will love that shit. You know what I'm saying? So let's just wrap this up because I'm hungry and I need to do other things. I might just have to do my ritual tomorrow, even though technically it's not the new moon. But it's like, well, see, here's the thing. You can do anything you want. If I want to do my new moon ritual tomorrow and I feel that it's better in my alignment, then tomorrow it is. You know what I'm saying? It's where we put hard and fast rules on shit. That's just our ego trying to be like, no, no, you gotta do it like this. Right? That's just think of our ego as like a little child pet. And it's always just trying to be like, nah, like just imagine that kid, like that's our ego. It's always trying to like, nah, like don't meditate, like no, you don't need to meditate, you know what I'm saying? Like that's our ego. Like just always be questioning when that comes on in your mind, in your consciousness. So realism and common sense. Always temper your profound naivete with realism and common sense. But I would say this is my aside. Personal freedom, like, okay, openness, optimism, and insistence on personal freedom can translate to naivety and crushing disappointment. Yes, but I would say that's the point. And crushing disappointment, that's just the reality of the human shit. You know what I'm saying? And, the more you can cultivate a life where you're magnetic and attracting the energy you want, the more it's like you're not attracting disappointment. Disappointment doesn't even come up because your life is so fulfilled because you can attract it in a certain way where it's like, wow, oh, I got a whole bunch of cacti, I have a whole bunch of books, you know what I'm saying? Got a little farm. Sure. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, I don't know, man, I would be disappointed if, like, the water stops working. I don't know if disappointed, I'll be annoyed. I don't know if disappointed is the right word, right? Because disappointment relies on an expectation of reality, right? And if you are at the whim of other people's consciousness in terms of your reality, then you probably will be disappointed a lot because you're not attracting, magnetizing for your reality, whatever the fuck that is, right? You're just being like, well, I guess other people are gonna attract and magnetize my reality for me because I can't do shit. You know what I'm saying? Then you get disappointed because you're like, oh, I really wanted that baked potato, and someone came in and took the last one. Oh, that was my baked potato. So let me just wrap this up. Let's just wrap it up. So, in conclusion, the Sagittarian mind is so open and adaptable that given the right focus, a steady expansion of consciousness can become an effortless state of being. Let me read that again. The Sagittarian mind is so open and adaptable that given the right focus, a steady expansion of consciousness can become an effortless state of being. Now, I'm going to fucking highlight that for this fucking new mood. The Sagittarian mind is so open and adaptable that given the right focus and steady expansion of consciousness can become an effortless state of being. Now, if that's not what I am working towards, I mean, it is, but I've never heard it, so well, eloquently put. In terms of, just the openness and flexibility of your mind is how you, get the ego off the reins, right? Because the ego is holding tight to the reins of the mind, like, yo, fuck, what the fuck are you, it's like holding, it's not relaxed. Like the gas is like, just is like kind of like, oh, whatever. It's not even holding on. It's like, whatever. I don't need to hold on to the reins. Like, just like, hey, we're here, right? We're just, it's cool, right? But the other energy is like, ego's like, I gotta hold on to this mind. I gotta hold on to this mind. I gotta make sure this mind knows that I am valued. And so, having a mind that is open and adaptable, it's not constricted and restricted by the ego. It can call on that energy if it needs to analyze and deduce and, put together pieces, right? That's what it's good for. And we appreciate it for that. But it can't run the show, right? In terms of the magical occult show. That is the goddess mind. That is the receptive energy. That is first and foremost. So, having a mind that is, again, not attached, right? It's open and adaptable. It's not like, oh no, we're holding on to this, right? Like, if something comes along where it's like, oh, that's, nah, right? In terms of like, it changes your perception of that thing in some sort of way where it's significant. Then, if you want to expand your consciousness, then you're going to like allow that you're going to allow it to take you where it needs to take you. You're not going to be like, nope, we're not going there. We're not going into that darkness. This is what I know about that thing. This is what I know about asparagus. It makes your pee smells. And I'm never calling off that hill, right? Like, and then it's like one day where it's like, actually, science has shown that This is actually what happens. It's not the asparagus. It's like, what? It's like, no, it is. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, like, why would I hold on to that if I was presented with new evidence? And that doesn't even matter. That's a small thing, and someone can still hold on to that. So, we want to focus on being open and adaptable and flexible in our mind, and not having our mind where it's like, it can only go this way. Like, that's another huge thing in occult practice, is that it's like, if you're really aligning and being receptive to, let's say, abundance, right, in all the ways, right, you know, first and foremost, spiritual abundance, occult abundance, right, the wealth of mind, the wealth of heart, all those sorts of things. But also, you're like, yeah, you know, I'd like a few extra dollars too, please, thank you, right? And it's just not be like, lots of times, I feel like most of the times, it could start coming from a direction that you don't fully see until it like starts happening, where it's like, maybe you get this one gig somewhere and it's like, oh, okay, it was cool, right? Then, like, you know, a few months later, that same person is like, oh yeah, like, my friend wants to give you a car, and his friend is like some big whatever the fuck, and like, you know, you start being his private photographer, or, you know, just in some sort of weird, interesting twist, right? And that is the magnetization, where it like goes, like, you know, it goes the most direct route, and sometimes the most direct route is the direction that your logical mind is like, what? That's where that came, like, okay, like, sure, why not? And also times it can come from directions where it's like, we're working really hard in this like specific area, and like, yeah, then, you know, we focus on that area, so it comes from that area. But like, if we're just broadly magnetizing and attracting like abundance in that way, you know, yeah, sometimes it's like, that's when it's like, gets real weird, where it's just a weird connection, just like someone got your business card from someone, and then this happened, and then someone dropped it on the bus, and that person who found it on the bus found it, and they're like, oh yeah, like, I need to hire a photographer for $10,000, and I didn't know what to do, and then I found your card on the bus, on a seat, and I was like, oh, who is this dude? Like, and I looked at your work, right? It'd be shit like that in life. So, you know, and making that happen requires an open and adaptable mind. And then the expansion happens, right? Like, then you are attracting the abundance. Then you're attracting what you want based on what you got in your subconscious. Well, let me just say that. Not just like what your conscious mind wants, but what's in your subconscious in terms of, you know, what's being attracted in terms of symbols. And, you know, becoming effortless with that, because you're not holding on to things. You're not being like, no, mind, you can't expand past this. This is as far as we're expanding, mind. And then something happens where it's like, but you want to keep your mind closed, right? And sometimes we want to keep our mind closed in so many different ways, right? From not trying new food when there's opportunities, from not visiting new places where there's opportunities, or creating opportunities to visit new places, to try new foods, right? Because, I mean, you know, maybe someone's like, hey, you want to try some Thai food? And you're like, no. But, you know, if you want to try Thai food, and you're like, you know, maybe just go get some Thai food. You know, or just be like, hey, what is this food? What is Thai food? Well, let me research it. Like, it sounds interesting. Just seeing where that leads you. So, yeah, we want our expansion to be an effortless state of being. Like, that's it. Right, where it's not like, oh my god, expanding, oh, this hurts so much, oh my god, expanding. No, it's like, oh, like, I'm expanding every day. I think that's one of I make these cards, I highly recommend doing this. I make these cards, index cards with different things on them, and that's one of my ones. I'm expanding my consciousness every day, right, in big and small ways. I'm gaining insights in big and small ways, because I'm not holding on to what I think my mind is, what I want my mind to be, what comes to my mind, what I see in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Because it's some shit I need to look at, or it wouldn't be coming up. Point blank. And that's what we need to understand. And if you want to change your mind, you need to start reprogramming it, so then different things come up. But when things come up randomly, it's not random. It's something. It's something that you need to have in your conscious mind for some reason. You need to figure that out. So, in conclusion, whether or not your sun is Sagittarius, this archetype is at work in some area of your life. If your moon is in Sagittarius, you live here emotionally. It's your subconscious operating system. If you're Sagittarius rising, you're learning how to embody it. It's just teaching you a new way to evolve. and where it falls in your chart in the area of your life, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, shout out to Blueprint Astrology. Yeah, check them out, blueprintastrology.com. Yeah, because I was looking for signs, archetypes and signs, and this one came up. That's cool. They got a cool Jupiter on there, you know what I'm saying? Anywho, to bring it all home, so this is the new moon energy. We need to be setting our arrow, setting our intentions toward our expansions of consciousness, staying open, staying flexible, and expanding our minds. So, keep that in mind when you're doing your ritual, or just, it doesn't have to be a whole thing. Just say some things like, going to 2022, here's where I'm shooting my flaming arrows at in these sorts of ways. You know what I'm saying? And, even do something that I'm going to do as well, which is called, scripting. You know what I'm saying? You write, like, for example, I'm getting a new apartment soon. And so I'm writing, like, I'm going to get a loft. So I'm writing, Dear Universe, or Dear Higher Self, or Dear Me. I am so thankful that I got this wonderful loft in Hartford, because, it just really feels great to come home to. And it makes me so focused that I'm able to have a place to do my creative projects, to read, to entertain friends, entertain family. It really has brought so much joy to my life. I'm so thankful, and I just enjoy making memories there, right? You do a little script, right, as it's like, it's happened. I'm writing this in the loft right now. You know what I'm saying? Because we're creating the astral world, right? We're creating the astral version of it, so then we can align with the physical version of it, right? And that's the trick. That is the trick. That is one of the big magic tricks, is just get your astral things together, and then you make it happen, and then it's like, shit just lines up. Anywho, that's it. I'm hungry, and so I gotta go eat. I feel like this is gonna shut off in like